You're watching Good on Paper, a bookish channel. I'm Jennie.
And I'm Rachel.
Join us as we journey together into the land of fiction, where the men are brave, the quests are epic, and everything is better on paper.
Hello, everybody. We are back for another episode. Ready to give a little bit of a writing update today.
Yeah, it's been a little crazy around here lately, so we're excited to chat about what has been going on the writing front or lack thereof. If you're watching this, you can probably see that I have no stuff in my room anymore because I'm packing out the house. So if that doesn't give you kind of an idea of what's been going on lately, I don't know what else will say. This is an empty room. If you're listening on the podcast, there's an empty room. I'm sitting on a chair in an empty room.
Basically, AKA, she has quite a bit of stress going on, guys. So nobody's allowed to have any judgments for what your writing life looks like right now, because oh my gosh, you have a lot going on.
So what's been going on with your writing life? Because I feel like I haven't talked to you much lately because like kind of the opposite.
Yeah. I mean, oh gosh, I don't even know where to start. When was it that we talked last time about like our writing and what we were doing, and like I was talking about rapid release? I mean, that was a while ago.
I think that was February, was when we recorded. It might have come out in March, but that was February when we recorded, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, I mean, a lot has happened, and yet not a lot has happened. Basically, and I don't know if I explained this last time or not, but I've been working on a new trilogy that's completely unrelated to anything I've done previously. I mean, which you know, because you've read part of the first one. But yeah, I've been doing rapid release planning, which basically means that I've been started out doing 10K a day, 10K words a day, which I mentioned in that video that I read the 5,000 words per hour book by Chris Fox, which was where I got that idea from. I do not write 5,000 words per hour, guys. Lord have mercy. No way. But I was, like, I'm like, who does that? That's insane. Like, I'm like in awe. I did do the 10,000 words a day to start with for like maybe not quite a month, and then got really, really, really burned out and just like completely fried, because I also was working 7 days a week. I was writing 7 days a week. Yeah, bad idea. Don't do that, guys. It's a really bad idea. I'm just telling you right now. Ended up deciding that 10K a day was just too much. I mean, it's great for getting words on the paper, but they're so rough when you're trying to write that fast. Like, they're really, really, really rough. So I've dropped it down to 5,000 words a day, which has been working really well. And I also take Saturdays and Sundays off now, so that's good. That helps a lot. Yeah, like Friday night, I like had to stop to go to bed, and I was like, oh, I kind of want to keep going. And I was like, no, if I stop now, that means Monday morning I'll be excited to get back going. And I was. So that's been working really well. But yeah, that's the project I've been working on. It's an urban fantasy trilogy, and I don't know if I'm sure people listening, some people have read K.M. Shea, but she has an urban fantasy series where she has, I think it's called Magaford Supernatural City is like the overarching, like, I guess like franchise name. And then she has a trilogy per each couple within that universe. And then like hers are a little bit more connected than mine probably will be, but that's kind of the vibe I'm going for, where I'm creating a new franchise with this urban fantasy universe, and then there's going to be a trilogy per couple within the universe, and they're like, they know each other. You'll have met characters in the next, like the characters in the next trilogy you'll have met in the previous one, but the storylines don't necessarily intersect. So that's kind of what I'm going for. So I'm really, really excited about it. It's been going pretty well. But yeah, I've already finished 2 books in that trilogy, and I've just got halfway through the 3rd one. So.
Oh my gosh! You're like cruising.
pretty well. I'm pretty excited about this story. I mean, I'm gotta be honest. I'm really nervous about doing revisions because I'm just terrified that I'm going to find a bunch of problems. But still, I mean, having two of them done and the half the third one done still feels pretty good. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And even if there are problems, generally, I say generally because I did have a project that did have really big problems. Generally, once it's written, just the revising is so much easier. Just having it out there is honestly like the biggest step.
Yeah.
Unless you wrote something that was so messy. Like the first project I came back to with writing, when I started writing again, it was just so bad. Like I changed my mind, like whether it's historical fiction or fantasy or this or that, and I had just started writing again. I was just all over the place with that one. I thought revisions were going to be like that, for everything, but thank goodness they're not. Like now I have a better handle on things. So, when I had my first draft, like revisions aren't like insane anymore.
Yeah.
It's more smoothing things out, adding this in. You don't have to like change. Like when you had to do like a whole like plot structure overhaul, that's when it starts not working anymore. Because it's like the more you change, it's like pulling like the blocks out of a tower. It's like, well, you pull one here and the whole thing just falls down. And
Yeah. No, I totally
or you don't
agree.
notice it falling down, and you're like, oh yeah, this makes sense, and it doesn't.
Yep. I always say like your original ideas are probably your best ones, and like staying closer to those is your better option rather than going completely. Like if you want to go completely different, just write a completely different book than trying to take something, completely flip it over, opposite on its head.
Yeah. Because there's that like story logic and like progressions that happen, like because of this, then this, because of this, then this. And you just can't mess that up, because if you change this, then that means this didn't happen. It's like those time travel movies where like they go back in the past and change something, and like that's what revising is like. I mean, it's like time travel. You change too much stuff, it just like changes everything.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's like with this trilogy I kept telling myself the mantra of KISS, keep it simple, stupid. What I told myself while I was even outlining these was don't try and overcomplicate the plot, because you will bite yourself in the butt and you will have to have like so much changes later. So now I know that when I go back to make revisions, it's not going to be crazy big plot stuff because I didn't go crazy big on the plot stuff to begin with. So I'm like hoping that it works. I don't think it'll be terrible. I just,
I always like to like kind of like skeleton and then flesh out versus than trying to do it the other way around, because it just gets too messy and too hard to deal with, like all unwieldy and.
Yep, I 100% agree. That's like with this one. Normally I outline really in depth, and this time I did not, because usually it's like I do like a couple paragraphs sometimes per scene in an outline. And with this one, I did a 1-by-1 sticky note per scene, and that was it.
Oh, okay.
So nice. Like at first, I tried to take those sticky notes and then create an outline, like a full detailed outline. But then I ended up catching up to myself and didn't have time to do that. And it worked out for the best, because then I noticed that if I needed to change something with the storyline, it was so much easier to change a sticky note than to have to revise paragraphs of stuff you've already fleshed out. And then B, it made me so much more creative during writing. Like I felt so much less stressed because I was just doing whatever came to my mind for that scene, because all I had written down was like 3 sentences. So it just like felt like I was able to actually just like let go and create, which has been really, really nice, which goes completely against what I'm used to doing, but it's been lovely. So.
Yeah. No, I always find like if I outline too much, writing becomes a chore, because it's like, well, I already know what happened. You know what I mean? But when you go in, you have no idea what's going to happen. It's like you're reading a book. Drafting becomes a lot more like reading a book when you don't outline. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So yeah, it's been an interesting couple of months, but overall it's going pretty well. So I'm hopeful that I can get these books out hopefully in the next couple of months. I don't know how long revisions will take, but I'm hoping that it goes fast enough that I can start getting them out there, because I'm really excited about it. So.
I'm so excited.
Me too. Ah! So how has writing been going for you over in the chaos?
So it was kind of trickling. and it turned into a full-on Hulk. I have 2 episodes left to finish up Kindle Vella, and I think it's been like 2 weeks. It's not 2, maybe it's only been 2.5, but it might have been 2 weeks. So I feel so bad because I've left everybody like hanging, and I just need to write those 2 episodes. And it's not that I couldn't; it's just when you get in that headspace where you're like you can't even think about it, even if you had the time, you couldn't think about it. And I think because it is the final 2, it's almost harder because I need to wrap it all up. When I'm doing like an episode in the middle of it, it's not as bad because I can be like, oh, what's going to happen? But now there's a bunch of stuff that needs to happen, kind of a deal. So, but honestly, I should probably just sit down and write them both out because it'll just be easier just to get them both out and get them up there. And I could do that. Maybe I'll do that today. I don't know. We'll see. Because I really need to finish that because then it will be complete. People will be able to read the whole thing from start to finish. Season 1 at least, which is basically going to be the first book, except I'm going to flesh it out a bit more because I think it's only 60,000 words. So 45 episodes, maybe about 1,500 words each. So by the time I flesh it out, it'll be like a full-length novel. So I knew, okay, it's kind of time to start wrapping it up. Otherwise, when I flesh it out, it's going to be way too long.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel quite ready. I thought, what? This story can't be over yet. What happened?
I just started this.
Yeah, and I think it's because of the way I wrote it, because I didn't outline it, because I looked up online and they said there's different opinions about this, but the opinion I saw the most is when you're writing a serial story, you don't want to write it all in advance and upload it as a book necessarily. I mean, you can if you want, but it's better to have it like episodic, and you'll hear things from readers and things like that, and especially because Kindle Vella has polls, so you can hear back from people with the polls and everything. And I think are they adding comments? I believe they're adding comments, which will be super fun.
Yeah.
So I kind of wrote it, week by week.
Yeah.
And writing week by week, basically, I was writing twice a week, about 1,000 words. So I was really only writing like 3,000 words a week. And not planning it was just such a different writing experience for me because I felt like I looked up after 3 months and it was done. And I don't think I've ever finished a draft that quickly because I don't set my goals so low. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I set them super high and then I fall off the bandwagon.
Yeah.
But like with this, I was really taking it slow and then I didn't plan it at all. So I was just like, okay, what interesting thing can happen this week? And I was kind of keeping track of like an overarching storyline, but it was very episodic in nature. I thought of one singular interesting event that could happen. And I think that's something I miss when I'm writing novels. I'm so focused on the big overarching plot is I get bored during the chapters. So I'm like, okay, now this has to happen, this has to happen. Instead of thinking something interesting to happen for that chapter. Like it's its own little short story. Yeah. So I've actually learned a lot from writing this way. And like I said, I can't believe it's over already. I don't know quite when season 2 is going to come. Ideally, I should just start writing it as soon as season 1 is over. But with the moving thing, and also I have some other projects that I want to work on. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah.
You know what they say about the best laid plans.
Exactly. Yeah. And TV shows have a break between seasons. And granted, that's because they're filming the rest, and I'm definitely not going to be writing the rest in between the breaks. Yeah. Some authors do. I mean, other than it gets a little stressful and sometimes things are late, I find it's better to write as I need to. I feel like I'm more creative that way. So in the break between seasons, I will not be, writing all of season 2 and then uploading it. Although that would be great because you can schedule out your episodes. Like if you do that, it'd be so much less stressful because you can just put them in and schedule them to release on the right date. Like whoever does that, you guys are genius. you can just kind of be going. But for me, it's almost like a fun way to get me writing, and like, I don't know,
Yeah.
it's just fun.
Yeah. No, I totally, and that reminds me of last time when we were talking about how we're both kind of like figuring out what our approaches are to self-publishing and like our styles are and how they're basically opposite. And it's interesting because you start out thinking that you're this type of author who's going to publish this certain way, and then you realize this isn't working for me, and then you start trying other avenues and you start to figure out, okay, this is working for me. But then like talking to you, I'm like, oh, okay, so the opposite works better for you. This is so interesting to see how different personalities, different things work better for each other. Because like for me, I think I'm a very like schedule-oriented person.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's kind of been a running joke my whole life that I like lists. And I like checking things off lists. And I really like, like planners and being organized. I don't know why. So for me, like having the rigidity of writing a certain amount of words every day and like, I guess kind of like constantly having like a task I'm supposed to accomplish works really well for my brain. And for some, but then I get burnt out and I need to take breaks. And then for some people, having a much more like flexible expectation works a lot better for their creativity, and they create more that way and they create better that way. So it's just so interesting, what you learn by trying these different approaches, and you're like, oh, I didn't think this would work for me, but it is really working for me. It's really strange.
Yeah, it is so important. Like, I saw on Instagram, Nadine Brandis was doing a little series of things, wisdom of an author to other people who are wanting to write. And the very first thing that she said, at least it was the first one I saw, I could have missed the first one, but it said, you have to learn who you are as a writer. You need to know how you work and what makes you stop and what makes you write. And it's just interesting. So I don't think we've talked about it with each other, but I don't think we talked about it on the podcast. But our last episode, not our last episode, but the one before that, where we were talking about different avenues of publishing.
Mm-hmm.
So in that episode, I said that I've seen people kind of just publish a lot of books really quickly and figure it out as they go.
Yeah.
And as they go along, they're publishing. I don't want to say their books get better, because a lot of times it's just the publishing aspects, the pre-orders and the covers and the stuff that we don't want it to be important, but it is. So, they just do it really fast, and their earlier books maybe don't have the pre-orders or that pretty cover or all the marketing build up. As they go along, they kind of get better, and they build up that readership because they've written so much, and people come to know their books and they can get another one. And then you see other authors who take a different route, and they write one book and they take a whole year. I mean, who knows how long they've spent writing it. And then they take the whole year to hype it up and do the covers and all the marketing. And they just had that one book, and you see them and they're signing books, and they have a book stack this high, and they're doing all the Barnes and Noble book signing. They are just doing everything for the one book, and then their next book comes out 1 to 2 years later. But people are so in love with the book because they really were able to get someone's attention with just that one book, that people, they're waiting for it, and they're like, I know I'm going to pre-order this next book. And both approaches, they're very different, but I've seen authors become successful with either one. So we brought that up in the last episode that we did, and we recorded that, like I said, back in February, could have been early March, but I think it was February. Yeah. And by the time it got released, it was the end of March. And I was listening to it, and I realized that everything I had been going through in March, I realized, you know what? I think I want to do the second option. I think I want to slow down my writing and really finish one book and then take the whole year to release it, which is not something that I had considered before. But, and I mentioned it before on the podcast, but lately I've just been feeling really stifled creatively, not happy with my writing. Like, I like my Kindle Vella, but I don't feel that kind of writing It's very quick and it's very fun, but I don't feel like it's fulfilling for me. And that's the thing. I mean, you can do things that are easy and convenient. And I definitely recommend, because the reason I started doing my Kindle Vella and I I changed my Instagram feed so that it would be like an indoor setting, is because I wanted to do more faster. I wanted to be able to post on Instagram every day without leaving my house. I wanted to get myself going, get out there with writing by writing my Kindle Vella. So I thought, well, I'm going to write first person, present tense, short, snappy. I'm going to do more and I'm going to do it faster. And I'm glad I did that because it got the ball rolling. You know what I mean? Had I not done that, I don't think I would have ever started. I wouldn't have started being active on Instagram again or trying. I wouldn't have really tried with writing because I would have had like my perfection thing up here and it would have paralyzed me. So I'm glad I did it. But the longer I did it, the more I thought this is just not satisfying. I didn't like doing the indoor photos. I didn't like doing the first person, present tense, really like kind of YA, like binge reader stuff, which I do love binge read books occasionally. Like I'll go through phases where I'm like, I need to read a really heavy, weighty kind of book. And then I need a break and I need like a really quick read. And then I'll get tired of that and then I'll go back and forth. So not saying anything against that kind of writing. I just don't think for me as a writer, it's fulfilling. There's different kinds of writers. For some people, it's probably totally fulfilling and they love it.
Yeah.
But for me, I was just like, it's not satisfying. So, but now I had the ball rolling. So the ball was rolling. And I thought, you know what? It's time. You're already doing it. Now you just take the next step. And so I started taking outdoor photos again. And I have started working on another project, which is it's a very old project. It's one of my very first ones, but it's a fantasy, a historical fantasy, and it is set in Anglo-Saxon England, and it's a series. And I thought, you know what, this was the book you started with. I'm going to come back to it. I'm going to take my time, and so you'll probably see the first book maybe next year, maybe another year after that. We don't know. But, I'm going to take my time doing it. And
I love that. That sounds so good. Oh, I'm so excited. Yay.
I know.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm just excited because Rachel's about to do the rapid release and I'm about to do it absolutely huge. Like I'm going to try and do everything I can think of for my release because I'm going to take it slow. So I'm just so excited to be able to compare, at the end of however many years, we can really compare and see what happened. It's going to be interesting.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And I think too, I mean, I know some people who haven't done a lot of writing yet are probably wishing that we could tell them like the fast way to figure out what the right process is for you. But honestly, like you kind of just have to test things out and figure it out. And something that I've realized lately that's been really hard to figure out is that I started with my initial trilogy, Legends of Avalon, and I love that series and everything, but I don't think it's an accurate representation of where I want to go as a writer. Like writing this trilogy that I'm working on now has taught me like, oh, this is my niche. This is what I really like. Because this is more like a balance between fantasy and rom-com, and it's faster paced. I realized that Lord of the Rings might be my favorite story in the world, but I am generally not a like heavy reader. I like lighter things. I don't like super fluffy too much. Occasionally to like, at the palate cleanser, but not too much. But I like things to be a little bit lighter, not as heavy or as like big. And I thought, then why am I trying to write this big heavy thing? Is it because it's what I really wanted or because what I felt like I was supposed to do? So for me, I'm actually, if you guys know who Sylvia Mercedes is, she has re-released her first few books in one of her series because she decided that they weren't the way that she wants to go with the series. And so she just made some tweaks and some small things and re-released them. which is what I'm going to do with Legends of Avalon. I have no idea how big the changes are going to be, honestly, but I just want it to kind of reflect more of where I figured out I want to be as a writer, which is a little bit lighter, a little bit funnier, a little bit more romantic, cut down the density and the plot complexity a little bit. But I guess the moral of that is it's okay to start out not knowing where you're going as a writer or what kind of writer you are going to be, because I feel like it's a growing process. Like, you don't learn without trying things and then figuring out, oh, okay, no, that's not for me. You know, just like us with our publishing styles. And it makes so much sense to me because you are such a, like, creative person, and, like, aesthetically and, like, marketing, like, you're so good at making things look so pretty and so interesting and so fun and, like, fairy tale. So the whole, like, drawing out the relief, it's going to be awesome. Like, that suit, I can so see how that's going to suit you so well. I think it's going to be great. I hate all of that. So for me, I'm like, I'm just going to write the books and push them out and be like, bye, guys. So it's interesting that we're kind of both finding our niches, and it's just one of those things where you just have to try things out, and as you figure it out, you know, it's just, you know, trial and error, basically.
Yeah, and it's really common for authors to re-release their earlier book. You know, if anybody out there is nervous about that, you mentioned Sylvia Mercedes doing it. Another one of my, I say favorite authors, I only read the one book of hers, but I loved it, so she's my favorite author. Carmen Payne, I think it's her second book, and it's like a Scottish romance series. So the second book is the one I really loved. It got nominated for an award. But she actually, I think, re-released the first book in the series because she said the way she wrote it, that's just not what kind of writer she wanted to be anymore. You know, and it happens. Like, don't feel like you have to be perfect to start, because you're not going to be. And if you think that you are, you're never going to start. So just start. You can always re-release things. I mean, I had even thought, because I'm going with another direction with my writing, I'm almost thinking, should I not pull it down, but kind of not advertise my Kindle Vella so much, because if people come thinking I do that kind of writing, then I'm not going to find my audience, you know, and I'm going to turn away people who might be my readers for what I want to do, and then I'll attract people who are going to be disappointed by what I do later. So we'll see kind of where I go with that. I am planning on kind of doing like an edit of it. So maybe I'll be able to do a good enough edit where I still will keep promoting it and trying to get a readership base there, but probably not, because the kind of edit to turn it into the style I want to go in is going to be so extensive. It's going to take away time from the series that I do really want to publish. So we'll see. But like I said, I'm just saying this so that, you know, like, I put it out there and it got me going, and I'm glad I did it. But it might not be the direction I want to go in, and it might be something I kind of take away for a little bit. You know, I might take it totally down off Kindle Vella and just put it, because it's completed, you know, it's completed manuscript, put it away and revise it later. And then I have a step that's done. Because that's the thing, it's not wasted work. I can still use it. And it taught me so much. Even if I never use it, it taught me so much, and it kind of got me out there a little bit more, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, I'm the same way. I don't regret publishing the Legends of Avalon books, the first two, because, and you know, even though I'm going to change them, it was such a learning experience. And honestly, I don't think anybody starts self-publishing knowing what kind of writer they are through and through. Like, I think we all go into it kind of with a little bit of what we think we want to do, and then, well, somebody else is doing it like this, and that kind of sounds like a good idea. We all do a little bit of imitation, a little bit of ourselves, and it takes you a while to figure out who you are as a writer, and that's okay. That's just the way it is. And so I'm like, I'm glad I have that experience. It was a really great experience. I don't regret the books. It's just I want them. And like you said, I haven't been pushing those books lately because it's not an accurate representation of the type of writing I want to keep doing. So I want people to know what kind of writing they're actually going to get from me versus, oh, here's this book that I love, but also I'm not going to write like that anymore. So maybe if that's what you're looking for, don't stick around, So yeah, kind of like, well,
Yeah.
I'll just keep it over there, and if you find it, you find it. But otherwise, I'm not going to tell you it's there because it's not really the way that I am now.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's all right, and that's okay.
Yeah, and
That's
it just
fine.
makes me think of the difference between indie publishing and traditional publishing. And this is where I think most of the critics of indie publishing will come in and say, well, you see, this is the problem. Because with traditional publishing, you'll query, 10 books before you figure out who you are. And your books won't get picked up until you know who you are. You know what I mean? Because your books don't generally start getting good enough to be picked up until you know how you would write, because that's authentically you. And I think most agents and publishing houses kind of see through that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know where critics would say, well, this is the problem with indie publishing, is because people put books out there before they're ready. But to me, who cares whether it's an agent kind of being that barrier, or like yourself realizing you're not happy, or the fact that nobody's really reading your book? I mean, who cares what gives that lesson to you? Because the thing is, okay, yes, your book is out in public, but if it's not truly where you're meant to be yet, and it's not your best book, it's not going to get that much attention anyway. So it's not like you ruined your big public, because you're not going to be public with a bad book, or not a bad book, but like an early book. So to me, like, who cares whether it's the actual public or the agents who are the gatekeepers? Because either way, somebody is the gatekeeper of what's good and what's not. To me, I actually think it should be the public, not the agents, not the publishers. It should be the public, the readers, and they really do still gatekeep in a sense and decide what's good and what's not. Because if a book is good, and assuming the author knows how to market, because unfortunately sometimes the book can be good, they just don't know how to market. But if the book is good and the author knows how to market, that will get rewarded. People will read that book and it will get out there. So that is, a gatekeep, kind of. I think that it's the same thing as, an agent saying, oh, well, this is good. Like, it's either your readers are going to tell you whether it's good, or an agent will tell you it's good. And yourself can do it too. Because, I mean, you know deep down, like, it's not right. And it's not making you happy. If it's not making you happy, that's a big sign that it's not like the avenue you want to go down. So.
Vibrating.
Yeah, okay, let me decline this call. We'll see if it. Okay, good. Last time I tried to decline a call, it picked up and then it stopped our call. So, okay. I got this part.
Oh my god. With agents, I never thought of it that way, that they're kind of, I get that does make sense, the way traditional publishing would work, that you over time figure out what your voice is, that's when you finally get picked up. But I would agree that I almost feel like it is better as a self-publisher for you to figure it out, because rather than, and like the public kind of help you figure that out, because rather than someone telling you, no, your book isn't good, we don't want it, it's you slowly kind of having to do the self-reflection, someone forcing it on you.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably a healthier way to go about it. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with querying either, but I feel like there's a kind of a softer way that it works with self-publishing that I prefer.
It is. And I just think it's, because sometimes agents are wrong. And it cuts out the middleman and lets readers decide. I mean, to an extent, because indie books don't get the reach that traditionally published books. So it's not going to be as accurate. You can't say that you're getting as fair of a chance to let readers decide. But in a way, you're putting it directly to the readers and you're letting them decide, So.
Yeah.
So I just like that. It's more, I just like cutting out the middleman. Let's be honest. I mean, like, we got the writer, we got the readers, let's just get it there.
I agree. I'm like, I don't want to be told my book isn't good. I want to slowly come to that conclusion myself.
Yeah. And like I said, you never know. You could have queried something to an agent and they said, oh, no one will ever like this. and then the agent could have been wrong. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Readers, I don't think, are really wrong. I mean, sometimes they read books that are maybe not like their thing. You know, they might read outside of a genre. It's just not for them, but they are the market. The agent is not really the market. The agent is thinking about the market and trying to predict it. The readers actually are the market. So if they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. Whereas the agent is just guessing whether readers are going to like it or not. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And even like readers of traditionally published books are different than readers of self-published books. Like the readership is a little bit different. Like if you're used to reading self-published books, you have different expectations a lot of the time than you do with a traditionally published book, because the tropes are different a lot of the time, or the way that, you know, things are popular within a traditionally published world, but they're not popular in self-published, or vice versa. So the readership is a little bit different. So yeah, it totally depends on the person.
Yeah, it really does. But we were talking about our writing updates. But yes, that's what we are writing. Rachel is writing a lot. I am not writing a whole lot right now, but as soon as things calm down, I'll get back to it, because I found out that doing this new way of writing, or just thinking about it differently, I should say, it made me write more. You know how you said you do well with a schedule? I don't do well with a schedule. I actually write more when I don't have a schedule, when I feel like writing is like this kind of like sacred and like precious time, and I just like do it, and I don't plan when I do it. I don't talk about it. I mean, I've really stopped talking on Instagram about writing and my books, and I've been writing, not right now, but the past month, I've been writing so much more, not talking about it. I just feel like when I write and then I talk about it, I'm like giving a piece of it away. And for some people, sharing their writing and that kind of thing, it makes them more excited to write. For me, it drains me. You know, if I keep it like very like, I mean, it sounds stupid, but I'm like kind of that person. I have to think of myself as like an artist, and this is just very like sacred and personal and private, and it's the thing that I do. And I find that keeping it like that, it doesn't drain me. And if I'm just talking about books and things that inspire me on Instagram, Instagram becomes something that fulfills me versus draining me. Like basically my Instagram right now, it's a giant Pinterest mood board. I mean, that's what it's turned into lately. And it's making me write more. It really is, because I just feel like it inspires me creatively. So if you're wondering why I'm not talking about my books or what I'm writing, that's why. Probably not going to.
We are, because before doing this podcast, I never really realized that there was another way to do things that wasn't what I was doing, and that was valid. Because before, like, having these conversations, I would have thought someone who like went about things more of an artistic way, I would have been like, oh, they're just like, you know, they're just dinking around, they're not taking it seriously. Like, I would never have thought about like the way, you know, you process your writing and how things work for you, and how you know, way you best function. Like, it never would have occurred to me before these conversations. So I'm so glad that we're both so different, because I know that there are people listening, they're not all like me, and they're not all like you. Like, it's so nice that it's, you know, both ends of the spectrum. I think it's so great.
Well, it honestly never occurred to me until lately that I could do that as an author. But I just thought of it. I thought, okay, so my readership, I want to attract people who like books and who like fairy tales and folklore. So if I just talk about that, I don't have to say anything about my writing. I mean, once my books come out, I'm going to need to a little bit. But if I attract people who like books, fairy tales, and folklore, then once my book does come out, those kind of people are going to be interested, you know, in reading it, if they are readers, because some of them might not be readers. And I mean, we'll see how it goes, because this is a very new kind of thing, but it's already working better for me as a writer. So whatever it does to the audience, I don't know.
Like, what kind of story you're going to end up writing, like how it all goes, and like I'm excited too for us to keep talking about, I mean, not that we'll give away necessarily what we're working on, but just how our writing lives are going, as we continue to figure out what's working for us and whatnot. So I'm really excited about where things are going, because I feel like we're both figuring out what kind of author we want to be, which is so exciting, because I'm like, now I know what I want to be when I grow up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, we thought, I just want to be an author. Little did you know, like, what that can of worms actually entailed,
Uh-huh. Yeah, I didn't know. It'd be like, what kind of author? I don't know, one that writes books. I didn't know.
Yeah, you just write, and then people read it. It's that easy, right?
Yeah.
That's all you have to do.
That's what some people in my life think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
So anyway, thank you guys for tuning in to our updates on our writing lives and publishing styles and everything. I feel like this is kind of a hodgepodge episode, but I really like where it went. Like, I feel like it had we covered a lot of good stuff in this.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because we record maybe once every month, and I feel like every month we've just learned so much. And so sometimes we just have to do an episode like this where we just spew all out everything that we've learned, all our new ideas, all our new insights, and hopefully it's helpful to you guys too, just to hear, what we've been going through. Maybe you can relate. Maybe we've said something that you've never thought about before. So let us know if you can relate to anything, or if you have something to add to the conversation. You can comment on our YouTube. You can message us on our Instagram page. Make sure you subscribe if you want to hear more. And we will see you next week with another episode.
Yes, we will. Thank you guys for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed it, and tune in next week for another episode. And if you enjoyed it, please consider leaving a review so that other people can find us, and we will see you in the future. Bye.